Is a religion that integrates all the religion, brings all the principles of religions together, and shows the oneness. It integrates all the incarnations. It integrates all the scriptures. It's a very integrating great religion, which we can call as the universal religion, and in Hindi it is called as Vishwa Dharma. Now, to make it more particular, I thought that if you say universal religion, then it may not be that particular, because like the Buddhist, then we have got people who are called after Christ as Christians, and after other people according to the incarnations. So this time, the incarnation being Nirmala, I thought we can call it the religion which is universal in the name of Nirmala. So to make it short, I thought we can call it universal Nirmala religion. What do you say to that? Now, Nirmala, you will be all called as Nirmalites. Means the one who have been enlightened by Nirmala. It goes, light shabd goes, the word light goes very well with you people because you are enlightened. Others are just lights without any flame. So this is Nirmalites, means the ones who are being enlightened by Nirmala. So if you like the name, we can call it Universal Nirmala Religion. If that suits your people in the West, I think that's a good name. So we have now proclaimed and pronounced that this is a religion which is a pure universal religion. When you say universal, Nirmala means pure or immaculate religion. And I hope you are agreeable to that.
Shri Mataji. My name's Brett. I'm the current National Coordinator for Sahaja Yoga in Australia, and I'm here today on behalf of the Australian Council for Sahaja Yoga to provide a presentation about the formation of Vishwa Nirmala Dharma Australia, the new formal arm for the Australian Council. And this is the same presentation that we've given recently online to around 200 yogis from around the country. And we've also presented this at the recent Shivaratri Puja in Canberra, and also online for the West Australian Collective. We've also provided in-person presentations before that in Melbourne and in Brisbane as well. So I'll be going through some slides. It's not a particularly long presentation, and taking you through why it was formed and telling you a bit about it and the other legal structures here in Australia supporting Sahaja Yoga and the recent issues between the Life Eternal Trust Australia and the Australian Council. And you can send in any questions you have later on to sycouncilaustralia@vnd.au, and we'll just put that email on the screen at the end for a little bit, and any questions you have will be answered, and the new body will be fully transparent with regard to its constitution, which is available online, and going forward with regard to accounts, they'll be fully transparent and detailed and shared with the collective on a regular basis. So we'll begin the presentation. Dearest Shri Mataji, we humbly pray to offer all our egos, superegos, thoughts and desires at your lotus feet, and only wish to please you in all our actions. We offer this small and humble presentation in all humility and surrender. Jai Shri Mataji. Sahaja Yoga organizations worldwide. There are councils and coordinators for all spiritual and operational needs of the collective, including programs, pujas, seminars, projects. There are legal structures for administrative tasks, such as legal and financial matters, including maintaining open and transparent accounting practices. The two structures are complementary and should support each other. However, Shri Mataji previously appointed leaders, then counsellors and coordinators to lead the Sahaja community in each country. The current Sahaja Yoga operating legal structures in Australia. We have Life Eternal Trust Australia, established by trust deed in 1986 to acquire Burwood Ashram, with 3 individuals appointed as trustees at the time. And before that, Sahaja Yoga began in 1981 in Australia, with Mother appointing leaders for Australia and in each state before there was any legal structures, just as part of our Sahaja culture. Life Eternal Properties Australia Pty Ltd. It's the sole corporate trustee of LETA, Life Eternal Trust Australia, since 2014. It now has 10 directors and 3 shareholders as a private company. Mothers Love Early Education and Childcare Service Limited has 4 directors with no shareholders. It has members, as it's a company limited by guarantee, which runs the childcare centre next door to Burwood Ashram. There's Nirmala Dharma Education Limited, which has 5 directors and 4 members. It's been formed for the primary school project in South Australia. And there's the new body formed by the council, which is the subject of today's presentation, Vishwa Nirmala Dharma Australia Limited, which currently has 3 directors who are all councillors, and all the council members are also members of Vishwa Nirmala Dharma Australia instead of shareholders. And finally, Life Eternal Trust Western Australia, which has 3 individual trustees and operates the West Australian bank account and as a backup trust for LETA if it were ever in need of being wound up for any unforeseen reason, as a backup entity to transfer assets into. Summaries of actions against the council in recent months. The LEPA directors rejected the vibrational selection at Hiawatha in November of 2024 to select the WA National Councillor on the basis it was not in line with their protocols, because there were 3 envelopes used instead of 5 during the pre-checking stage to see who would check the vibrations on the new councillors. LEPA, through their lawyers Hunt and Hunt, tried to remove the current Australian National Coordinator and the WA National Councillor. There were threats made of property expulsion, and also those same threats were made in an earlier Zoom call to all councillors where their families were also mentioned. The councillors advised LEPA that we reject their notions of control over the council and will carry on, and the collective were informed. The national email system was also taken over by LEPA through their lawyers. LEPA advised the council can never send another email without their approval. Council refused to use the system under these conditions. The LEPA wants administration authority over all the WhatsApp groups across Australia for all the states. The council refused access because LEPA doesn't own those WhatsApp groups. LEPA then attempts to abolish the council entirely through legal letters in February of 2025 by cutting access to all Sahaja Yoga resources. The council again rejects their notions of control over the council, and following this action, 416 yogis signed letters denouncing LEPA actions in support of the council to remain as per the arrangements Shri Mataji made for the Australian collective. And it's also worth noting those legal letters, the basis of which they were written, they have no end date. So all the councillors subject to those letters, if they were to follow those, then they're actually not allowed to do anything in Sahaja Yoga other than go to collective program and leave unless they have the express written permission of the LEPA directors to use Sahaja Yoga resources of any kind, which again we reject, as it's just simply not what these bodies were made for by Shri Mataji. It's not the intent of these bodies, and it's far too authoritarian and far too oppressive and controlling. So then more recently, we uncovered a property expulsion policy, wherein there was a new clause added that says if any former councillors represent themselves as councillors, this could be grounds for permanent exclusion from Sahaja Yoga properties, which has subsequently been deleted following sharing that with the collective publicly. And then we also saw recently that the LEPA directors tried to take over the running of the International Easter Puja at Balmoral. So they wanted to basically, again, treat the councillors as non-existent and assert themselves and appoint themselves as pujaris and running every day of the puja and taking over the New South Wales rosters. So again, just taking over council roles. So then the Australian Council, together with the New Zealand Council, decided to relocate the puja, international puja, to the Bundella Scout Camp, where Shri Mataji had 3 pujas herself in the 1990s, including 2 Easter pujas. And again, the collective got right behind that, and there was well over 300 yogis at the puja today, and it went beautifully. The vibrations were tremendous. So the collective has been amazing, not only supporting the council, but they're also expressing themselves and showing that they also don't acknowledge this kind of heavy-handed conduct or this controlling behaviour. So nobody wants to see Sahaja Yoga become an organised religion run by a select few who happen to also have unlimited terms as well, unlike the council, which has limited terms. What is the current legal structure and what is the proposed legal structure? Let's spend a little time looking at our legal history in Australia. From 1981 to 1986, Shri Mataji appointed leaders, national leaders or state leaders, and there were no legal bodies in Australia up to that point. Who Shri Mataji chose as trustees? So Shri Mataji chose the original 3 trustees, and then would change them from time to time as she felt the need. None of those original trustees are currently in place, and some of them aren't in the collective anymore. The last appointment by Shri Mataji was 4 trustees in 1999, and one of those still remains in place today from 1999, although another one of those is still a shareholder of the trustee company. Who Shri Mataji removed as trustees. So again, Shri Mataji would rotate them now and then, and also if there was any misconduct, she would remove them if there was ever that need as well. In 2005, the first council was formed. Before that, there was individual yogis as leaders in each state and nationally. And then there was a move to councils, not only in Australia, but in other countries during that year. The current LEPA directors have claimed that was formed as a trust subcommittee only. The trustees and councillors who were there in 2005 have written publicly rejecting this assertion. There's nothing to show that or document that or evidence that. It's purely something that's been made up essentially. So there's nothing to that as far as we're concerned, and it's not our understanding of the Sahaja culture that Mother created for Australia. Is the council proposing any change to the present trustee directors of LEPA? So what we'd like to see is the introduction of fixed terms for LEPA directors, like the way the council has fixed terms of 3 to 5 years. And we're happy with any practical solution there. Anything up to 15 years would be fine, with potentially 5 years with up to 2 re-elections, or any other sensible solution. Some countries have rotation of their board every 2 years. For example, in America, every 2 years, half the board of Vishwa Nirmala Dharma in America changes. So we're not suggesting that it's going to be 2 years, but that seems to work for them. But anything sensible that doesn't allow for unlimited or jobs for life, as it were. What is in the best interests of Sahaja Yoga Australia and supports the collective to grow and deepen? So we feel that there is a need to introduce this new body we've formed to create some balance, to improve certain areas of administration, and to protect the council from another body which seems to want to assert itself as, I guess, a leadership committee with unlimited terms and unlimited powers. So this is the current structure of Life Eternal Trust Australia. You have you have three private shareholders of LIPA, Life Eternal Properties. So you've got Harry Gaikwad, Chris Kiriakou, and Craig Armstrong as the shareholders. This information in this slide is all publicly available via downloading the historical company record from the ASIC website, so there's nothing here that's private information. Then you have LIPA as the sole corporate trustee of the trust, and then LIPA's acting body is the Board of Trustee Directors, which is the committee, and there are currently 10 trustee directors who are listed there. There were 3 up until 2022, and then a further 4 were appointed then, and then a further 3 were appointed at the beginning of 2025. Then you have the trust. So the trust is controlled by the trustee. So that's the relationship between a trustee and a trust. So Life Eternal Trust Australia, which is operated under a trust deed, and LIPA as trustee for LITA is the title holder of all the Sahaja Yoga properties, apart from the new property in South Australia purchased for the primary school project. So we have Wamaran, the ACT Ashram, Hiawatha in Victoria, Gidgegannup in WA, Balmoral in New South Wales. There's a block of land in South Australia, and there's also the Burwood Ashram and the childcare building in Sydney. So PTY Ltd, that is in Life Eternal Properties Australia, PTY Ltd, it indicates this is a private company. So that's the PTY part. So that means the constitution is held privately, and despite several requests, that's never been shared to the council. However, the trust deed of LITA is available publicly on the ACNC website, the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission, because it's a registered charity with the ACNC. So for those not familiar with trusts, essentially the trust holds the assets, but the trustee manages the assets as it sort of decides what happens with the assets, including the finances and the properties and any other assets of the trust. So in generally speaking, this is done for families where there's the beneficiaries are family members in the commercial world, but in the non-profit world, the beneficiaries of the trust is Sahaja Yoga. So the trustee has to run the trust in accordance with the objects of the trust deed. And the trust deed for Life Eternal Trust Australia was the one that Shri Mataji approved for the UK trust in the 1980s. So it was basically copied from the UK trust. And then the objects of that is the advancement of Sahaja Yoga in a nutshell. It is also worth noting that the trustee that Mother approved for LITA has a clause which specifically states that LITA is allowed to partner with other Sahaja Yoga bodies for the advancement of Sahaja Yoga. So working together with this new council body is not against the trust purposes. And also working with the new body cooperatively in no way harms the status of the trust or the compliance of the trust in any way whatsoever. It's perfectly normal and acceptable from a legal perspective and from a charitable perspective. The independent structures, we have Life Eternal Trust Western Australia with 3 individuals as trustees, Chris, Craig and Frank, and maybe I think Joe or Robin Reed may still be a trustee as well. It doesn't hold property. The Gidgegannup property was once held here, but it was transferred to Life Eternal Trust Australia. It serves the purpose of transferring the properties in case of any legal issues with LIPA in the future. Mothers Love Early Education and Childcare Service Limited operates the Childcare Centre. In 2003 it was formed with Mother's approval. It's a company limited by guarantee, which is a kind of public company, which means the constitution is available publicly. And so this type of legal structure was already approved by Shri Mataji in the past at the time. And it's the same legal model we're using for the school project, and it's the same legal model we're using for Vishwa Nirmala Dharma Australia. And so it's got 4 Sahaja Yoginis on the board and some members, and that's you can go to the ACNC website if you'd like to see more information. And then you have Nirmala Sava Education Limited, which was formed in late 2023 to purchase property in South Australia to work on a primary school project, which is ongoing. And we have the board members there, and that's coming along. It's in Cadell, South Australia. So this is the structure of Vishwa Nirmala Dharma Australia, the new body, formed as the formal arm of the council. So you have members instead of shareholders. So if you recall the previous slide for LITA or LIPA, you have a private company as trustee of a trust. So there's no trust or trustee relationship here, but it has some properties of a trust in the way it operates. But so there's no ownership. So members, this is the most common legal structure used in the non-profit sector or the charity sector of Australia. So nobody actually owns the company as such, but the members are there to basically ensure that the body is run in accordance with its constitution, which is available publicly. So they make sure the directors are running the body in accordance with the objects of the constitution, its charitable purposes. And so what we've done is we've taken all the sort of standard clauses you would have for this type of entity, but we also then copied the key clauses from the LITA trustee because that was approved by Shri Mataji. So we've copied the key clauses from the LITA trustee about the advancement of Sahaja Yoga being its core object or its core purpose so that it can work together with LITA from a legal point of view, but it also reflects that same wording that Shri Mataji approved originally. Currently, we have 3 directors, his Uncle Andrew, Edwin, and Rob Henshaw, who are also national councillors. We can have up to 9 at any point in time directors. So we have 17 council members. Actually, it will be 16 council members, and they make sure the directors are running it properly, and the members have the power to appoint and remove the directors if they need to at any time. But the directors also have tenure. So there's a maximum 12 years as a director. Generally speaking, it will be 4 years, but there is a provision for up to another 2 lots of 4 years if needed for practical purposes. But also because the way the council works is we have state councillors, national councillors, and a national coordinator. So in theory, you could have someone who does those roles consecutively. So you could potentially be on the council for that period of time as well, although it would be unusual. And then in addition to having tenure for the directors, the members who are the council also can only be members if they are councillors. So that means that they also don't have unlimited terms. And from an administrative point of view, it's very simple to change the members, which is a lot easier than if you have shareholders like LIPA does to change the members from time to time. So it works really well. It's the most common legal structure for a reason. So it works really well as a charitable legal structure. So there is the ability to amend the constitution as we go forward if it ever needs to change, but the only clause we've put in there that cannot be changed is those clauses with regard to tenure or fixed terms, and with regard to the members and the directors cannot be there for a lifetime. So one potential way forward between LIPA and VNDA is to integrate the bodies and form a stronger new structure. This would obviously require cooperation from both sides. So it's not something that one can simply implement. It needs to be something we would work together on. So the first principle of this diagram is that the collective is paramount. That's why it's at the top. And of course, Shri Mataji is paramount as well. So Shri Mataji's, or the Sahaj culture, has to be preserved and can't be overridden by the administrative bodies. And it's important to remember these are merely administrative bodies, that Sahaja Yoga is not an organization, and there's no hierarchy in Sahaja Yoga. We're all equal before God. So in this way, these bodies should be serving the collective and not in any way controlling the collective. So one potential way to bring the two bodies into cooperation is to take those shares from the private company and transfer them to VNDA to hold the shares. And in that way, you could also introduce terms onto the board of directors of LIPA. And the VNDA board already has terms. And then basically you would have then LIPA owned by a collective body instead of private shareholders. And everybody on the boards of those two bodies would have terms. And then you could actually just have a combined council who are either directors of each or who are all members of VNDA, but they may also be a director of LIPA or VNDA. And then everybody has rotation. There's no more small group who can control or have hierarchy. So it makes it much more collective and less controlling. And then sitting under those under that structure, you could have VNDA as the Sahaja Yoga operating body, so it can run all the pujas and programs and events and so forth, which is in line with the council's role as mother created. And then on the other side, you can have Lita holding all the assets and managing all the assets, which is all the properties. So in this way, you can actually have the best of both worlds. You have a really strong setup, but also trusts are very good from an asset protection point of view. So you actually protect those assets much better this way. If there's ever any attack on Sahaja Yoga from outside, then the properties are much better protected by this structure. One of the things that have been circulating from the LEPA national email system is that Shri Mataji didn't approve the use of Vishwa Nirmala Dharma in Australia, which is simply not the case. It's just been held up in a wrong light the way they've communicated that. So this is Shri Mataji's letter in 1990 approving the formation of Vishwa Nirmala Dharma in Victoria as an association. So this reads, to the Registrar of Associations, Dear Sir, I give my unqualified support for the incorporation and registration of Sahaja Yoga, which is to be known as Vishwa Nirmala Dharma in the state of Victoria, and that I give my full support for the use of my name and teachings in this regard. Yours sincerely, Shri Mataji Nirmala Devi, and it's signed by Shri Mataji and dated the 8th day of July, 1990. So Uncle Rob Henshaw, who's currently on the council and was a trustee as well of Lita, was involved with this, and he shared with us what happened, which was Shri Mataji approved the formation of this association in Victoria, and then later Shri Mataji found out more about the structure, and then she discovered that there was with this association that all the collective or all members of the association had voting rights. And it sort of created a kind of a democracy where they would vote in the office holders every 12 months via an annual meeting. And Shri Mataji didn't want this kind of voting set up for Sahaja Yoga in Australia. So basically, this is where they've shown that talk of mothers from the 1990s to say she didn't approve of it, but it was this aspect that she didn't approve of. So this was later closed down, and then the name itself was acceptable and has been used by other countries with mothers' approval, at least in America, Canada, and there's several other countries who are using Vishwa Nirmala Dharma as an administrative name for Sahaja Yoga. So there's no truth that it was not allowed. So it's a really auspicious name, actually. It's a really positive and good name. Questions and comments. So this is not about power, it's about balance. When the first trouble began earlier in November last year with the lawyers being hired by LEPA, the council has offered their resignations and to be vibrationally checked for continuing each and all roles at the next major puja gathering, as long as the LEPA directors agreed to do the same, which they refused to do. The directors of LEPA have rejected all the above options and refused to sit down and work things out with the council. So any questions or comments, if you would like to send through, please do so with respect and courtesy. And we humbly offer all our pranams, desires and actions to the lotus feet of our Holy Mother. Jai Shri Mataji. Thank you for watching the video. I hope it was informative and helpful for all the Sahaja Yogis who have been wondering about the new body. We feel it can be a really positive thing if it's embraced by the collective and embraced by LEPA, and we feel the trouble that's been going on can all be resolved. All we need to do is sit down together as yogis and as mothers' children and figure things out and act as a family as would please her to restore unity and peace for the collective. As I said at the beginning, if you have any questions or comments, please refer to the email you see on your screen now and send in any questions you might have, and we'll be happy to answer those. And we'll certainly be keeping everything completely transparent as we move forward and keeping the collective informed as everything progresses and develops. But as we say, we feel it will be, in the long run, it'll be something which will be really good for the advancement of Sahaja Yoga and for achieving Shri Mataji's vision for humanity. So thank you for listening, and enjoy your meditations. Jai Shri Mataji.
Now, once we accept that religion, once we become universal, then we have to forget about our small little caste, customs, our old dead traditions, and the things that are not keeping with our spirit. Whatever is comfortable to your spirit has to be accepted as the principle of our religion. And whatever is not comfortable for it, we are not going to accept. So, whatever is the way I have taught you, these are my teachings. Out of my teachings, whatever you have achieved belongs to this religion. Of course, in this religion, as you know, all the great prophets are really respected. The best advantage of this religion is that so far all the religions, though they were true religions, were established by true people and prophets, were all ruined by their disciples. The reason was they were not given realization, firstly, and secondly, there was no proof of that religion. Now we can give them the proof of everything, of how it is doing good to your body. Once you know that you can prove it, that it does good to you, then people will take to this religion much faster and they can test it. Because the word religion makes people quite nervous. They think religion means you are binding and then you have to get into some sort of a traditional style of living which is dead. But here our traditions are that we accept which are comfortable for our spirit and for our ascent. So that gives us the complete freedom to enjoy ourselves in the fullest way. Under these circumstances, we forget what country we come from, what caste we come from, what families we come from. All these past things we forget and we become new blossoming lotuses, spreading our beautiful fragrance all over the world. So all these old ideas which are just curbing our progress should be given up. Now, today, let us start afresh with this new universal Nirmala religion. So, you are all the members of the universal Nirmala religion. All right? All of you agree?
विश्व धर्म निर्मला धर्म की जय।